Hello everyone, welcome to our Bible story time. Today we will learn about the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel shared amazing visions from God during a difficult time for his people. Through these pictures and messages, God gave hope, guidance, and promises for the future. Let's discover how God cared for his people and still cares for us today. God promised to change hearts. Some people had become stubborn and stopped listening to him. God said he could replace a hard heart with a caring and willing heart. This teaches us that God can help us change from the inside. When we follow him, we learn to love, forgive, and care for others. Ezekiel was a prophet who lived far from his homeland. Even though life was hard, God gave him special messages to share. God often chooses ordinary people to do important work. When we trust him and listen carefully, he can use us to encourage and help others too. One of Ezekiel's first visions was a set of amazing wheels that moved wherever God directed them. The vision showed that God was always present and fully in control. Even when people felt lost and far from home, God had not forgotten them. We can remember that God guides us wherever we go. Ezekiel was called to be a watchman. A watchman warns people when danger is coming. God wanted his people to hear the truth and turn back to him. In our lives, caring friends and family sometimes give helpful warnings too. Listening to wise advice can keep us on the right path. Many people ignored God's warnings and chose their own way. Little by little, they moved farther from him. This picture reminds us that wrong choices can lead us away from what is good. God warns us because he loves us. He wants us to return to him and walk in his light. Ezekiel also spoke about a shepherd who cares for lost sheep. A good shepherd looks for those who wander away and brings them back safely. God is like that loving shepherd. When we feel lonely, confused, or afraid, he knows where we are and gently leads us with care. The shepherd's promise reminds us that God protects, heals, and restores his people. Just as a shepherd watches over every sheep, God pays attention to each person. He sees our struggles and knows our needs. We can trust him because his love is faithful, strong, and full of kindness. One of Ezekiel's most famous visions was a valley filled with dry bones. Everything looked lifeless and hopeless. Then God showed his power by bringing the bones back to life. This vision taught that God can restore what seems lost. Nothing is too difficult for him when he chooses to act. God breathed life into the dry bones, and they became a living people again. This beautiful picture shows that God brings hope where there is sadness and strength where there is weakness. When life feels difficult, we can remember that God is able to renew hearts and give fresh courage. Ezekiel also saw a vision of a future temple with a river flowing from it. The water brought life wherever it went. This showed that God's blessing spreads outward and helps everything grow. Just as water refreshes dry land, God's presence refreshes our hearts and helps us live well. The river began small but became deeper and stronger as it flowed. God's work in our lives often starts in simple ways and grows over time. A small act of kindness, a prayer, or an obedient choice can become something wonderful. God can use small beginnings for great purposes. Along the river stood beautiful trees filled with fruit and healing leaves. They were signs of God's provision and care. God wants his people to flourish and bless others. When we stay close to him, our lives can also bring encouragement, kindness, and help to those around us. Looking back at Ezekiel's visions, we see a wonderful message. The wheels showed God's guidance, the breath gave life, the shepherd cared for the lost, and the river brought blessing. Together they remind us that God is powerful, loving, and always working for good in the lives of his people. This final reminder encourages us to live with the new heart God gives. Like Ezekiel's visions, we can listen to God, care for others, and trust his guidance every day. The book of Ezekiel teaches that God brings hope, restoration, and life. Thank you for watching. God bless you. See you next time. Goodbye.